Apologies for our technical problems. Welcome to our coverage of race 5 at the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. Winterberg in Germany. Not one of the most challenging technical tracks, but the devil is in the detail. This high-speed run down the mountain in the Hochsauerland calls for absolute precision. Winning margins here traditionally tiny. Francesco Friedrich and Torsten Margis know all about how to win in the start area and all the way down this 1,330-metre track. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our coverage of the 5th race weekend. This is now the 9th two-man race of the season. Francesco Friedrich has won 7 of the previous 8. Johannes Lochner 1. Oscar's Kieberman is lying 3rd in the World Cup standings. Is not here this weekend. The defending European champion will not race because of positive COVID tests in the Latvian team. They didn't leave Sigulda a week ago. They hope to be back for Samoritz next week. Well, those are the teams that have started and raced so far this season, including the return of Jamaica to World Cup racing for the first time. Well, there is Francesco Friedrich, and is he the greatest of all time yet, or will he become a GOAT if he wins today? Well, the argument is the all-time tally of World Cup race wins in 2- and 4-man. But we've got other fish to fry because the North Americans are back. Canada and the USA both on the starting lists in all disciplines this weekend. So we've seen them race in men and women's skeleton, in the women's bob this morning, in the men's 2-man. And for the first time this weekend as well, tomorrow, the Königsklasse is back, 4-man bobsleigh. Well, our start draw kicks off with Benny Meyer and Markus Sammer of Austria. We've got 18 sleds who will go in the first heat, and everybody who survives intact will get a chance to go back in the second heat as well. We have some athletes making their return to the World Cup, and for Jeff Gadway of the USA, a first ever race in Europe. Race 9 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. We're in Winterberg in Germany. 26-year-old Austrian Benny Meyer with Markus Sammer, his brakeman, starting us off. 43rd World Cup start for Benny Meyer. 36 for Markus Sammer. Little too much at corner 0. Benny back in his ex-Francesco Friedrich Valner sled again this weekend. This is not only the 9th two-man World Cup race of the season, but it is also the European Championships this weekend. Benny Meyer 6th in last year's Europeans in Sigulda. And Benny finished in 7th place on this track last year. He's got a good pair of hands, talented driver, and a lot fitter this season than he's been for a couple of years. Wife Elizabeth racing again for Canada in skeleton. She was the only North American slider outside of North America pre-Christmas. They hustled over to Innsbruck, where Benny's family lives, before all of the season began. And a good run, 55.42, 4/10 off the track record. I wonder, it's a sunny afternoon. It's the first time almost that there's been blue sky overhead all week long. That could be very interesting. 5:17 in the start area. The record is 5:05. We might see records tumble here today. Well, here out of corner 5, very late, hung up on 5, steers onto 6. Wolfgang Stampfer on the right-hand side. And there is Benny Meyer. There's some baby Hendricks watching back in their apartment here. Next up, Brad Hall and Nick Gleeson. Brad Hall, 30-year-old British driver. Nick Gleeson, 24-year-old parachute regiment soldier. Nick in his 10th two-man World Cup start. And for Brad Hall, this is two-man World Cup start number 31. World Cup best for Brad, silver in Innsbruck in January last year. Disastrous weekend here last year, finished in 24th position. That's his only two-man World Cup race here. Last couple of seasons, it was double four-man race weekend in Winterberg because it's double two-man action in Sigulda. So the last two-man race here was December the 9th, 2017. It's a long time in development of Brad Hall. Then, 3 seasons ago, he was 24th. Now he's just a fraction behind Benny Meyer. Carrying more speed than the women's sleds. Just getting nudged away on a couple of these crossovers. This track opened in the early 70s. Imagine how much slower sleds were then, how different they looked. Almost completely open. Comes across the line, 1300s back, 55-55. A good start from these guys, 5:16, 100 quicker than Benny Meyer. And they are 1300s back at the bottom. And it's nudges like that that take a little energy out of the sled, put you offline. You then have to grab the steering a little, bring the sled back to where you want for the Kreisel. You need a nice flat line through the Kreisel. Look at big Nick Gleason in the back there, buried in the floor of the sled. So team giving back, Brad Hall and his crew. Raising money on We Fund It pages, on Fund You pages for lots of charities in the UK that are personal to them. Russia's Alexey Stulnev, 48th World Cup start for the 33-year-old, with Roman Koshelev behind him. Only the 6th World Cup race for Roman, his first full season on the team after a couple of ins and outs in Europa Cup. European Championship best in two-man, a 4th place in Winterberg 2017. And that's also his best ever two-man race result here. One of 3 4th place finishes. Stulnev has never yet made it all the way onto a podium in the World Cup. Not in two-man anyway. 5:30 getaway. That's a long way shy of where they need to be, the Russians. Stulnev has, I was going to say, is fast being eclipsed. I think he has been eclipsed by his younger teammate. We'll see slightly later in the run. Rostislav Gaitiukevich, definitely the Russian #1 driver on performance this season. 3rd best speed of the 3 sleds for Stulnev, and this is all part of the equation. They don't seem to have the setup right. Alexey Stulnev didn't race in Sigulda, the Russians' quote home test track. None of them did, they were all stuck at home after positive COVID tests. 55.92. Now going early in the run gives them the advantage of fresh ice. It's been a good couple of hours since the women's race for lots of track preparation, a bit of shaving of some of the gouges and a good spritz. So this is as quick as the track will be in the first heat. Later runners, and particularly here thinking of our North American crews who have joined in, because they don't have World Cup ranking points this year. They are a long way down in the draw. They'll be getting the later ice. That might make life a little difficult. Alexey Stulnev getting bumped around a little there. Thought in the women's race the track looked like it was catching the athletes out a little bit. Next up for Germany, Christoph Hafer, Europeans bronze medalist, with Christian Hummers behind him then in Sigulda. He's got Kevin Corona back behind him. This is Kevin's 2nd ever two-man World Cup start. His 3rd ever two-man race. He did Junior Worlds here in 2014, Pyeongchang in 2017, both with his former driver, Nico Walter. Now that's a good run through the 0 curve for Christoph Hafer, the 28-year-old. 14th World Cup start for Hafer. an occasional resident in Germany 3, if you like. 1 bronze medal in the two-man World Cup for Christoph Hafer. That was in Sigulda 2020. February in Sigulda when he earned that European bronze medal. Second best speed. Hafer, though, still in the red to Benny Meyer. And the gap is not coming down. That was late, very late off 13. Got away with it, though. We saw Mariam Yamanka hanging up there as well in the women's race. But I think it costs you time. Don't think it is a determined effort to hang on to speed. Hanging on the final corner and rolling over the finish line, that is one thing. And here we are in turn 11. You want a nice flat curve here. You don't want to rise too much at the end, but there is a big bump as you get onto the second pressure. Look at this. Right up by the woodwork. That's a beginner's line. I'm not sure you're going to see Francesco Friedrich doing the same as that. So there's Christoph Hafer and Kevin Corona. Yeah, third career two-man race. Next up, Michael Vogt of Switzerland with brakeman Sandro Michel. Vogt, 24th start for him. He's had Europa Cup and Junior World Championship podiums on this track, but was not driving the last time we had a World Cup race here in December 2017. He had a silver in race 4 in Riga. He's also had 2 bronze medals. It's been a big season for Michael Vogt. 3 podium finishes in 4 races in the two-man in Sigulda. Innsbruck, 4th, 15th, 5th and 7th. So we expect him to be very firmly in the top 10 here, despite the reappearance of 1 Canadian and 2 American sleds. 1600s back from 500s behind at the start. This is roughly where we saw Brad Hall of Great Britain. Second best speed for the Swiss sled. Can they close the gap on leader Benny Meyer? 132, 132.2, decent speed. Closing at the line, 2/10 back, 55.62. That leaves him 100th behind Christoph Hafer. And Hafer started 5:28. Vogt started 5:22. Well, there you can see the driver getting in, and brakeman Sandro Michel. There's a lot of him to try and thread around. His feet go all the way around the around the driver. The brakeman has to then bury himself down in the sled, head between his knees. That's why they spend as much time stretching as they do before each run. Because if you don't, it pops you back. First of all, 2 Swiss sleds down and done. Next up is Simon Friedli. Michael Vogt lying in 4th. Where will Friedli end up? Friedli, the European silver medalist last year with Gregory Jones. He's got Dominik Schlepfer behind him today. It's only his 8th two-man race, the brakeman, only his 9th in total. Simon Friedli in his 26th two-man race, his 12th as a driver. Silver medalist in Sigulda in February, in the European Championships last year. Last season now as well. Bronze medal in Sigulda as well. 1 win in Simon Friedli's World Cup career, and that was in Sochi in 2015 as a brakeman for Rico Peter. So he's yet to get to the top step of the podium himself, but you sense it may not be impossible, even with Francesco Friedrich in his pomp. 5th best speed, 4400s back. It's not going to happen here, is it? It's going to be a disappointed Simon Friedli, I think. Hasn't raced two-man here in World Cup before. Again, that was before his time of driving. 55.97, over half a second back, and 3500s behind teammate Michael Vogt. He started 100th quicker, came down 3500s behind. So Simon Friedli, Dominik Schlepfer, like Vogt and Michel, their teammates heading next to Samaritz, as everybody will be. They had a little time on the Olympia run in Samaritz between Christmas and the New Year. Oh, look at that sled skewing sideways out of the drive lines. Driver getting in late. Didn't have his hand on the D-rings. Slid wide into the wall before the corner zero dink. Well found from our EVS operators in the truck. Good work, boys. Well, next up, Francesco Friedrich. And Torsten Marg is back behind him, his reliable old warhorse, 31 years old, 33rd World Cup start in two-man alone for Margis, and a 71st for Francesco Friedrich. Tied for the silver medal in the last two-man race here. Oh dear, got a lot of corner zero and ping-ponged down the wall into corner one. 33 two-man wins alone. 44 World Cup bobsleigh wins in total. Andre Langer, we believe, has 45 wins as a driver. Kevin Kuska has 46 World Cup wins as a brakeman. So Torsten Margis needs to keep healthy a lot longer to challenge that. And we believe also 46 World Cup wins for the great Sandra Kyriasis. So Friedrich is maybe this weekend away from all-time greatness. 3700s up, 55.05, 300s off the track record, and a 5:10 start, 500s off the start record. And knowing what we know about Friedrich and Margis, they will be aiming for both in the second heat. Records are there to be broken. Well, look at this. A lot of corner zero. Just a little check with the steering after the tap on the right-hand side wall. Again here, far from perfect as far as Francesco is concerned. Everybody else would think pretty decent drive down. 300s off the all-time record that Friedrich and Margis set in December 2015 in the World Championships, which of course they won. But for France, still work to do. Next up, Romania's Mihai Tentea, the 22-year-old in his 13th two-man World Cup start. Again, his first two-man race here in the World Cup, although he was the junior world champion here in February in the under-23 category, which he could contest again this year. Cyprian Doroxy, his brakeman, 7th World Cup start for him. He was on that sled as well. So this is your under-23 Junior World Championship winning duo from February 2020 here in Winterberg. And it looks like whatever niggles Mihai had in the first race weekend in Eagles are behind him. Pushing the sled away from the blocks instead of having to sit in. I gave him a 5.30 start, so 2/10 behind Friedrich and Margis at the start. And that should translate to something like 6/10 at the bottom if they drive as well as Friedrich. That gap could be a little larger than that. Tentea, though, does have good driving skills, 7th best speed. And currently on target for a top 6 run behind Michael Vogt, but ahead of Alexey Stulnev. 8th best speed at the bottom. Can he hang on to 6th place? He does, 55.90. This track is 1,330 meters, start to finish. And it traditionally throws up multiple ties and some very, very close races. Let's see what today brings. Tentea vaulting over the side of the sled and dropping straight in. That's one of the advantages of not being the tallest of the athletes, is that he does get a chance to drop in quickly and easily, perhaps more easily than somebody who's another half a metre taller. So Mihai Tentea, Cyprian Daroxi in 6th position. 8 of our 18 sleds down, and our 9th duo from France, returning to the fray, Romain Heinrich and Lionel Lefebvre. Heinrich's 27th two-man race as a driver, his 45th in total, did a lot as a brakeman. World Cup best result for the Frenchman, a silver medal in Lake Placid in 2019. He's the European bronze medalist in Koenigsegg as well in 2019. Oh, but a big bump up the zero curve. Just went straight at it, and it bounced him across into the right-hand wall. Didn't put the sled into a skid, which would really have rubbed salt in the wounds, but 4 tenths lost. Now, quite a lot of that goes away at the start compared to Francesco Friedrich. Eighth best speed. This engineer from near La Plagne in France needs to find a little bit more in this drive. 9th sled. He is 9th on the split times at the moment. Just creeping ahead of Switzerland's Seaman Friedli. 8th at the line, but 9 tenths behind. That might not be enough for a top 10 run. At the end of the first heat, he shakes his head. This place is a little bit like Innsbruck. You need a strong start, but the devil is in the detail. Let's take a look at the load. Roma has no problems getting over the cow, drops in nicely. Drive lines run out there. His hands are still up by his helmet. That means that you're relying on loading comfortably to get you in and not skid the sled. Takes an awful lot of corner zero, just ran right into it. Needs a little steer to just take less of it. So French duo are in 8th of our 9 sleds. We're halfway through the first heat. And now we get to the only man not named Francesco Friedrich to win a two-man race this season. Eric Franke behind him. So Alexey Lochner with another of the ex-Nico Walter crew. Eric Franke, 31-year-old, 1 win, 1 silver for the brakeman. And Alexey Lochner with victory in Eagles in race 1 in December. Lochner was a European silver medalist 2 years ago on his home track in Koenigsegg behind Francesco Friedrich. He's 11 hundredths behind him here. A little nudge away there. Don't want to be rubbing the wall before you pick up speed. Below the Kreisel, it starts to get quicker, but down to the Kreisel, it is still fairly gentle pace. 500ths behind at the start is now a quarter of a second. The gap is growing. Benny Meyer is 37 hundredths back at the line. This is going to be close for second place. Where is Lochner? He is in second, but only by 300ths. And Francesco Friedrich is a third of a second ahead. Empirically, not a bad run from Hansi, but he might be looking forward a little bit more to the 4-man tomorrow. Johannes Lochner, 5 wins in 2-man, and a further 14 podiums. 2 European Championship silvers and a bronze medal. Hansi was 16th here in the last race back in December 2017. And again, his progress since then has been significant. This is 38th 2-man race for Eric Franke, only a 7th 2-man start. Franke's last 2-man race was in Innsbruck, where they won. So Francesco Friedrich, Johannes Lochner and Benny Meyer, the top three ahead of Brad Hall, and then Christoph Hafer and Michael Vogt. 10 sleds down, 8 to go. Race 9 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. 5th race weekend of the season. Matthew Baumgartner of Italy next up, finished in 30th place in the race here in December 2017. His only other two-man start on this track in World Cup racing, and that was right at the very beginning of his career. Well, for a start, there aren't 30 sleds here today, there are 18. Well, let's see how much he can find in terms of improvement. Should have looked out the times for that race, shouldn't I? 5:29 start. So a little quicker than Romain Heinrich of France, Mihai Tentea of Romania, and a smidge behind Christoph Hafer of Germany. Let's see what he's got. Will he be in the top 6? 8th best start, but at the moment, he is trailing Romain Heinrich in the battle for 9th place on the split times. Now he's drifted out behind Seaman Friedli. He'll be 11th at the line. Hasn't got the speed on the lower part of the track, and he is 60 seconds, beg your pardon, 1 second behind, and a 56.05 slide. Saw Coach Manny Mahata giving the thumbs up. This young man, Youth Olympic champion in boys bobsleigh, still a work in progress in the senior field. Eric Fantazzini, his brakeman. 5th World Cup start for the brakeman. His 4 previous World Cup races in two-man were all in Innsbruck last month. So he got used hard, didn't he? Let's hope they didn't ride him hard and put him away wet. Eric Fantazzini in the back of the sled of Patrick Baumgartner. 5th World Cup start in two-man, only the 2nd track he's raced World Cup in. And our 12th starter is the man we expect great things from in Russian colours, Rostislav Gaitiukevich. He's got the veteran Ilya Malik behind him. Ilya in his 30th World Cup start in two-man alone. Rostislav in his 7th. Gaitiukevich finished 7th in Segunda in the European Championships in February. Let's see what he's got here. Could easily see him making the same sort of inroads into this field. 5:18 getaway, only 800ths away from our race leader. That is a very strong start, and the Russians have to load this sled with as much speed as they can. Gaitiukevich is here, he is their lead driver. Despite missing 4 races, he is comfortably ahead of Alexey Stulnev in the points. Only the 8th best speed. And this is the other thing that the Russians need to address. We saw it in the women's race. Just did not have top speed in the sleds. Half a second back. Still aiming for a top 6, but I'm not sure he's going to get it. Where is he? He is just ahead of Mihai Tentea. And 300s behind Michael Vogt. So 300s out of the top 6, and actually it's a quarter-second margin back to Tentea in 8th. So he doesn't have to worry about the Romanian behind him. His focus will be on a top 6 finish here. World Cup best results, a pair of 4th places, including race 2 in Innsbruck. Getting bumped away a little, we've seen that so many times. From 4 to 5. Late exit on 5, crossover into 6. Everybody gets into a little skid. And for the man behind him, Ilya Malik, tall bearded figure. It's his 62nd World Cup race in two-man and four-man. And that's World Cup only. And don't forget, they missed the first four-man races of the first 4 two-man races of the season. Dominik Dvorak, 32nd driver start for him in two-man. A couple as a brakeman as well, did lots of four-man brakeman work beforehand. 28-year-old finished in 13th place here back in 2017. Needs to go a lot better than that. 5:24 is a decent start from Dominik Dvorak and Jakub Nošek. Nošek, the brakeman, 31 years old. This is his 60th World Cup race as well. Not just in two-man, he does lots of four-man duty. Expect to see him in the four-man sled again tomorrow. 9th best speed for the sled from the Czech Republic. Did a little bit of testing, Dominik Dvorak, with a new sled. Not sure that he's using it yet. Maybe this is the first outing for the new sled. Looks like a different livery from the one he was running pre-Christmas. It just takes a little time to adapt. You don't want to risk a race weekend on something that might be better if you know how to drive it. Dvorak 8th at the line, behind Gaitiukevich by 1700ths and ahead of Tentea by 8. Ten 900-meter man Dominik Dvorak. There's a lot of him to fold into that sled. He is a tall man. And look at the veteran brakeman Jakub Nošek behind him. Drops in, gets down nice and quietly. Through the Kreisel, nice flat parabola. Second pressure just a little higher maybe than you'd want. Comes out pretty neatly down into corner 8. So Dominik Dvorak of the Czech Republic lying in 8th spot. And next up, Ivo de Bruin of the Netherlands. Wife Christine returned to the World Cup fray this morning. She had a good run for Canada. The 34-year-old in his 51st World Cup start. Janko Frankic behind him, his 10th World Cup in two-man. Last time they raced two-man here, Ivo was in the race, 26th out of 30 sleds. A couple of 7th places, his World Cup best results. And for Janko, this is now his 27th World Cup race since he made his debut in November 2017. New pressures evident in the Kreisel. Again, we're seeing sleds hovering around 8th, 9th place. 8th at the start with a 5:24 getaway. Will he be 8th at the bottom? Trying to hang out with Gaitiukevich and Dvorak. Slipping out to 10th and 13th best speed at the line. It's 11th at the line, 55.95 for Ivo de Bruin. And that leaves him 300ths behind Alexey Stulnev, 100th ahead of Romain Heinrich. So big Janko out of the back of the sled and stopping it sliding backwards. From the United States of America, Christoph Hafer. Again, the 5-6 crossover, that was pretty straight. And looking around the cow, looking for his off-ramp out of corner 11. So next up, the first of our US sleds. There are a pair of them. This is Jeff Gadway, the 26-year-old American, in his first two-man World Cup race in Europe, with Chris Horn behind him. Chris with 12 World Cup starts, including a four-man bronze in Innsbruck last year with Hunter Church. A hugely emotional day for Hunter Church. 5th World Cup start ever for Jeff Gadway, and his first in Europe. A different piece of kit, a Eurotech sled will feel very different to what he's used to, but then he doesn't really know the track here either. Has never raced in Europe before. So he's got good skills in North America, but this is a voyage into the relative unknown for him. 5:31 getaway for them. That was the 15th best start. And again, for these guys, particularly for Jeff, it's going to be all about learning the tracks. Little rattle there, gets pushed away sideways. Needs to get a hold on the sled. Maybe a relatively straightforward track for learner drivers, but it is still high speed, balancing on ice. 56.15. There's Coach Brian Scheimer. I'm sure he still remembers his first ever tour in Europe as an athlete and then again as a driver, how different everything is. And this year of all years, can't go into a restaurant, can't get food, everything is sealed up and locked down. COVID testing every couple of days. Everybody is being extremely cautious. Jeff Gadway, a little late there. That may be the latest we've seen there. So for Jeff Gadway, Herzlich willkommen here in Winterberg. And one of the disasters of being here in Winterberg this year is he'll never know until he comes back what the bratwurst tastes like down at the bottom of the track. Next up for Canada, Justin Kripps and Cam Stones. Cam had his birthday on Tuesday, so happy birthday to the now 29-year-old. Kripps finished 4th in the last two-man race here 4 seasons ago. His 68th two-man World Cup start. He was saying it's going to take a while to blow the cobwebs off, get used to the sled again, get used to racing again, get used to starting again. Because of COVID, the ice house in Calgary, the start track has largely been closed. The only place they've driven is the only track left in Canada, which is in Whistler. So this is a very different beast. Of course, coming a little later in the run, may not have the best of the ice either. 11th best speed, but it was a 4th best start. Could be a top 6 run still from Justin Kripps. This track has never been the kindest to him in two-man. Let's see what he can produce at the end of the run. Crosses the line in a strong 5th place. That is okay. You're absolutely not wrong. That is a good 4th fastest start, 6th at the bottom. That's how you get your season underway. So Justin Kripps and Cam Stones in 5th place, tied with Christoph Hafer. Justin just getting engaged to his longtime girlfriend over the Christmas New Year break, end of the summer. So congratulations to them. And good to see the USA and Canada back on ice here in Europe. Again, particularly for Justin, who knows this place so well over so many years, it must feel very strange this year. But glad to be back racing. 2 to go, and we have Cody Bascue next up, the 26-year-old from Whitehall, New York. 1 win, 1 bronze medal in World Cup racing. Last World Cup in two-man was December the 8th, 2019 in Lake Placid. Well, that's a whole different world away, isn't it? He did race here in his first season in Europe. In the last two-man race, he finished in 19th, made the cut. He's got Carlo Valdez behind him. Carlo with a win, a silver and a bronze medal in two-man. And Carlo raced with Stephen Holcomb till joining Cody in the 2017-2018 season. 20th two-man start for Big Carlo. 35th two-man race in the World Cup for Cody Bascue. And he's hovering around the top 10, just outside. Maybe 11th, 12th place run here off the 9th best start. And again, just taking trips down Lake Placid and Park City since the summer ended. Has not really been a good educator, I'm afraid. Park City maybe, but the speeds are higher earlier there than they are here in Winterberg. Across the line, 15th spot. Relatively inexperienced here in this Winterberg track. Cody Bascue and Carlo Valdez in 15th place. as we get towards the end of our first heat, and that shouldn't change when we come to our final sled. Bit too much at corner zero. We saw him feathering the runners there. A little check on the steering. Stop the sled walking around at the front. They tend to walk around at the back. The articulation is a long way forward in the sled and the weight is a long way back. It's a big pendulum effect, especially so in a four-man. Ooh, drifting high there. Second pressure got a little more than he was expecting. Final sled in the first of our two heats here from Croatia. Drazen Silic with Benedikt Nikpalj. For the 35-year-old driver, it's an 11th World Cup start in two-man. And for Benedikt, his brakeman, a second two-man World Cup start. All three of Benedikt's previous World Cup races were as a Swiss slider. This is only his third ever race for Croatia. They raced here in the Europa Cup races in December. And Drazen's last two-man World Cup was Koenigsegg in January 2020. Then he did the World Championships and the European Championships here as well in 2015. So he's got relative knowledge of the track. 2 22nd places are his World Cup best. If he completes the run, he will have a personal best. If he completes the race, he'll have a personal best here. Could be no worse than 18th. And European Championship best ever result for him, 18th place in Koenigsegg 2019. Again, will take 3 North American sleds out, a wild ride, but he's going to get it down. All got away from him out of 11. And then 12-13 became very much a hand-to-mouth affair. While Drazen Silic doing as much as he can with as little as you can imagine. And this is a rented German sled. You can see some of the green of Saxony underneath the black of the Borbet livery, which is one of the local sponsors here. So I sense this has possibly even, I don't know, Kathleen Martini history, who knows. But here we go, gets knocked away. Look where the runner marks are on the wall and look where the sled is. He has to haul it off there and just basically gets spat out by the corners. Big height on the exit, really has to haul it off, Robin Hood it off the corner, as British drivers would say. Got it down, got it done, and he makes it safely through the first of our two heats. At the other end of the heat, though, is the man we expect to lead every time we sit down to watch a bobsleigh race. One day he's going to disappoint us. That day doesn't come round very often. Francesco Friedrich with Torsten Margis behind him, our World Cup points leader, searching for win number 8 of his two-man season. Win number 8 of this year, full stop. Next starter will be Mihai Tentea. Francesco Friedrich, 500s off the start record, 300s off the track record. I think both are in danger in the second heat. Alexey Lochner and Benny Meyer are almost alone in the medals, aren't they? Brad Hall, Justin Kripps, Christoph Hafer, Mikkel Vogt, and Rostislav Gaitiukevich. That's a good battle behind. One of them might snaffle a medal. Behind Tentea and Stulnev, 200s apart, 100th between de Bruin, Heinrich and Friedli. 500s back is Bascue, 300s behind him, Baumgartner. Some tiny margins as ever here in Winterberg. The second heat will decide it all. It starts at 3:30 local, 2:30 GMT. That is 45 minutes from now. Join us then. From me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew, thanks for being with us. See you in 45 minutes to see if Francesco Friedrich can claim World Cup win number 45.